person. He looks completely screwed up. His eyes, he looks completely weak, completely powerless, very effeminate, but not that effeminate is bad in a woman. It's that male effeminate behavior. He just reeks disingenuousness. And my God, how can people not see this man as a complete fraud? Not just by his reeking evil. I mean, he is like a horrible goblin that sits on the left knee of Satan. I mean, he just comes off. My God, how can people not? I mean, same thing with Bill O'Reilly. I mean, just an absolutely evil, swollen up, worldly person. Having discernment, it's like radar beams. I can just look right through them. And I don't know how other people can't see this. And yes, I see how weak and bad I am. Don't worry. But we're all weak and bad. We're also all incredibly strong and wondrous. It's that I can see in me what's bad. And I'm ashamed of it. These guys, their greatest possession is their worldliness. And here he is. In a false, they know the mind likes to have a choice, so they give you a choice, sales tax or value added. Then they talk about liberals persecuting them after, so people sit there conservative, feeling like they're part of a club with O'Reilly and Beck. I mean, and they're like egomaniacs sparring with each other over, oh, you're stealing my stuff, when it's on record that Beck takes what we do and then tries to mimic it only to fool the public that's waking up. I mean, it's just horrible. Here is Glenn Beck calling for taxes.
Thanks, Stan Willis and Bill O'Reilly in the At Your Beck and Call segment tonight. A shocking development. Fox News commentator Glenn Beck, chosen by Barbara Walters as one of the most fascinating people.
I mean, how is this news? Egomania.
I'm not kidding. With us, Mr. Fascination himself, Glenn Beck.
What's
Beck,
not fascinating? What's not fascinating with me, about me?
We'll get to that in a moment. And it's a travesty of a mockery of a sham, as Woody Allen means.
It shows how troubled television
I mean, this is a
but
Benedict
I want to
Arnold.
ask you a serious question. Yes. Last night, I know you watched Factor every night, so you can steal material.
Oh, my God.
And I said that economically, we can bring the country back, but you have to do some discipline. You have to freeze spending.
Yep.
You have to have a national sales tax.
Oh, yeah, hit pause.
What did you think about it?
Oh, yeah, they're going to freeze spending, and cows jump over the moon. Bush tripled it. Obama more than quadrupled in the first 8 months. 8 months in, he'd spent more money than all presidents before him, back to George Washington. Folks, they've decided to bring the country down, to rape it dry. Do you get that? All that's going to be left is SWAT teams as a rearguard action. Do you understand that? Listen, back it up a little. People say I edited it. He's asked, oh, I want a national sales tax. And then Beck says, oh, no, I want a value-added tax. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, not just raising taxes, they want tracking taxes. They want IRS and Homeland Security in all your businesses. You think the IRS is bad? A national sales tax is 1,000,000 times worse. Oh, but it's been sold for 20 years by fake conservative groups as a replacement for the income tax. They're not getting rid of the income tax. They're going to give you a carbon tax, sales tax to track everything you're doing, fools. This is the carbon tax. And a value added on the GDP. It's in the treaty. I don't care if Neil Bort's on their payroll for 10 years has taught you to love it every day. I'm going to come back and play the clip. It's the watching you get conned. It's the watching you get manipulated. Why are you so gullible? This isn't hard to figure out. What's so wrong with stupid liberals? What's so wrong with stupid conservatives? You're not conservative. You're not liberal. You're Kool-Aid drinking mainstream media morons. Wake up, man. There isn't any more time. So, if you want a national sales tax and a value-added tax, notice all you conservatives got fooled for the last decade plus being taught, we got to have a sales tax, fair tax, flat tax. And I would explain to you on air, no, they're going to bait and switch during an economic crisis and give you those taxes on top of the income tax. And it's going to be a national carbon tax. And it's going to track everywhere you go and what you do. Shut up, communist! I like being conned. And now, oh, your two icons, Bill O'Reilly, Bill O, and Glenn B. Baby B, he's up there. He's going to save you. And then they go into how the liberals are attacking them. See, let me tell you how you're conservative. You raise taxes. Absolutely. That's incredibly conservative, Glenn. Yeah, we shouldn't cut the government that's doubling or more every year. Yeah, no, let's just raise taxes. Well, of course they are. That's their job, is to be absurd. Glenn Beck is meant to come off disingenuous and slimy to everyone out there, to demonize the patriot movement. Again, with patriots like Glenn Beck, who needs Mao Zedong? With libertarians like Glenn Beck, who needs Joseph Stalin? Let's go ahead and go back to Beck and O'Reilly, just two of the slimiest fake pundits out there together.
I know
Here they are.
Factor every night,
yes,
so you can steal material.
Oh my God!
And I said that economically we can bring the country back, but you have to do some discipline. You have to freeze spending.
Yep.
You have to have a national sales tax. 2%.
Yep.
Oh.
What did you think about that?
I made some notes.
Excellent.
I actually agree with you, except I believe it should be a VAT tax, 2% VAT.
Value-added tax.
No more than 2%.
What's the difference between a sales tax and a value-added tax?
Value-added tax goes through, or value-added tax goes through absolutely everything. So it hits 2% on every piece. You make a car, somebody's making the radio, 2%. Somebody's making the... So it hits...
So corporations pay it too.
All the way along the line.
But you remember that corporations...
It's an extraordinary amount of money.
Will always pass it on to the folks, which is why I like the sales tax better.
Well, hang on just a second. But if you have a 2% VAT, you can pay things down awfully darn quickly.
That's
what
right.
What I want is, this is the part of the notes. I want a 2% VAT. It goes directly to the deficit. No more than 10 years.
Directly to the deficit. Just like 2% VAT the Copenhagen Treaty calls for. That goes directly to the deficit. In fact, here's the prisonplanet.com article from last Friday, before that was broadcast. Now EU wants global taxation, global transaction tax, to fund more bailouts. What's in the treaty? A global 2% tax, a value-added tax on the entire GDP. You just watch that pass and that happen. You just watched Glenn Beck openly in front of you propose what's in the treaty. Just magically, just exactly what they're calling for. You would never expect it, and now you will fight for it because Glenn Beck, the one you trust, the one that'll talk about the New World Order, told you so. And he'll also tell you there's no FEMA camps, even when it's in the Wall Street Journal and Houston Chronicle. He'll tell you everything's fine and Ron Paul supporters are dangerous when Ron Paul has a chance of winning, then say he's best friends with Ron Paul later to get your confidence to make sure in 2011, 2012, Ron Paul gets sabotaged. Benedict Arnold, the #1 general of the war, the most winningest general against the British. And he was a British agent the entire time. And let me tell you something. If you don't know that Glenn Beck is knowingly New World Order, you need to have your head examined. But there he is. And O'Reilly, he's got the sales tax. Don't worry. Don't argue, boys. We're going to get both of them. Christopher Horner, who's been covering Copenhagen, will join us in the next segment to give us the latest on what's happening with the establishment of a planetary dictatorship. He'll be with us for 30 minutes, then we're going to open the phones up after he leaves us. Phones aren't open quite yet, but start your engines. Hard to believe 2 hours has already passed. These shows just blast past us. Chuck Norris was on with us for about 35, 40 minutes earlier in the last hour. That was certainly interesting and informative. He says Obama wants to be a dictator and a whole bunch of other amazing things, that the state does want to take your children and does want to bankrupt your society by design. Ron Paul said last Friday the health care bill is going to pass.